Good morning, everybody. Myself, Acharya Vishvendra, and today I'm going to discuss the concept of neural patterns for success in JEE and NEET. So let's begin with the discussion. So today's discussion is about the neural patterns, which are the secret to success in JEE and NEET. So we shall begin with the thought experiment. Suppose this is a student. So as per cracking any competitive exam is concerned, there are two mutually exclusive dimensions of preparation. One is the brain of the student, and another is the mind of the student. Suppose a student is studying, so he is receiving information through the five senses, generally through the eyes, because most of the information when somebody is reading is through the eyes itself, visual information. And when the visual information reaches to his brain, then he starts developing certain sort of neural links. He try to connect it to the things already known to him, and after a long process, there are certain neural patterns which are developed in the brain of the student. So studying means developing those neural patterns, because if we ask ourselves why we are studying and how it will be checked that we studied something. So studying means that you are basically transferring information from some source to your mind brain system, and you are capable to retain that information as and when needed. This is how somebody check you. Suppose somebody is studying, then how you will check that whether he is studying or just acting to study? So the mechanism is to ask him what he is studying and observe his reactions, observe his output. If he is able to generate a satisfactory output, then that means he is studying. But if he is unable to generate a satisfactory output, then that means he is not clear with things and he is somehow trapped in his thoughts, illusions, or emotions, or any intermediary thing, but he is not able to complete the task. So that explains why only about 1.7% students are able to qualify or crack JEE NEET exam, and are further very few of them are able to get that position in life, which is uh, the central theme behind preparing for JEE, which improves your quality of working, fat paying checks, jobs in US, settlement in Silicon Valley. But all these are dreams, and these are the driving factor behind preparing for JEE NEET. But the central point here is the development of the neural patterns, or development of that mind brain system which is capable to generate high quality neural patterns which are needed to crack JEE and NEET. I shall elaborate that with the help of an example which is actually asked in JEE physics. But before that, we should understand that there is involvement of brain and the mind itself. And when a student is studying, that means he has developed certain sort of neural patterns after studying, analyzing, thinking, contemplating, comprehending. After going through a long series of process of on the information, there are a final product which is in the form of the neural patterns. Now the task is to transfer the neural pattern to the mind. Mind is like Google Drive, and all the information that we process through the brain are ultimately stored in the form of patterns in the mind itself, and which is used in future for when it is needed. To understand it, let's just ask yourself, what was your school name in class 5? How much marks did you get? Who were the teachers? Who were your friends? Where was your classroom? What was the you know shape of the classroom? how was the class teachers, how they behaved with you. So when you ask yourself this question, your mind must have started accessing data from somewhere, and suddenly you recognize that, oh, I was in this school, this was my class teacher, these were my friends, this is how I used to spend my time. So a variety of things must have happened within you, a variety of information processing system. So just ask yourself from where that information came to your brain, how you came to know that, how you were able to access information from a long, from a past. So this is because there is a mind brain system working within you. And at the primary level, there is conscious mind, then subconscious, then unconscious mind. So there is a natural transfer of information or the neural patterns from the brain to conscious mind, conscious to subconscious, and subconscious to unconscious. And when somebody asks you a question from the past, the reverse process is done. There is a stimulation from the brain. He asks for from the conscious mind asks from the subconscious mind, and the subconscious asks from the unconscious mind. Then there is information transfer from unconscious to subconscious, from subconscious to conscious, and from conscious to the mind. And the past neural pattern is again retained or regenerated in the brain, and it is used as and when needed. So this is the entire mechanism behind uh, any competitive exam. When you are prepared for that, you are studying for that, that means you are developing certain neural patterns. Because any subject, if you take, is just a collection of information at the very first level, but that information has to be processed to form the neural patterns, and these neural patterns are used in cracking the competitive exams. So you should be able to think that studying means to develop those neural patterns. Let's take example of JEE. In JEE there are about 6000 A4 size pages of information, which includes your notes, problems, PYQs, mock test, DPPs, modules, everything. It sums out to be about 6000 A4 size pages. And in exam, only 20 to 30 pages of information are being asked. So you can check that there is efficiency of about 1 by 200. That is, out of 200 pages that you have completely retained, only one page is to be asked in the exam. And you don't know what will be that page. So that explains the precision and accuracy should be very high for cracking these exams. And the accuracy and precision is not possible with a confused mind, with a thinking mind, because thinking is you can say that it is the midway, it is in the way towards development of neural pattern. Neural pattern is the final destination, and thinking is in between that. Suppose you start studying, then you'll develop some thoughts, you'll start some thinking. So that is very initial process when you just start studying. The final product is thoughtless neural pattern in which you don't need to think, because if you will think, you'll be confused. So the entire turning point is development of the neural patterns which are thoughtless and which are retained without any confusion. So that is the central task behind preparation. Now, there are three things of concern: information, process, and energy, which every student has to go through. You just feel when you study what is happening within you. So one thing is you are working on information, you are receiving some information from the books, and you are working on processing that. That includes the process. And third is energy or the emotions. So normally a student don't want to study because It's a painful process. Learning is always painful. Human mind brain system is designed in such a way that it tries to minimize the pains. That's why we lie, because lying reduces the stress and pain, while truth maximizes the pain and stress. So we have to choose a mediocre way, that we can't lie completely, neither we can, say true completely. Both are dangerous. Will not be able to survive. So as per survival mechanism is concerned, mediocre path is there. We lie some things and we speak true in some cases. So in a way we adapt to the situations. So what is happening within a student is he is using these three things, and using the things he is developing certain patterns, and these neural patterns are the secret to success in competitive exams. As per JEE NEET and concern, let me take example of physics. There are 28 chapters, about 350 topics, about 3500 subtopics, and about 9575 facts, concepts, or tricks. And you need to master all of them in order to master physics for JEE. So in a way you can say that, but if we consider the patterns, the concepts, so there are only about 1500 neural patterns. Patterns means an integrated, the information system comprising of information, concepts, involving certain sort of algorithm, and these patterns are the key to success in competitive exams. So in a nutshell, the purpose of studying is about developing the neural patterns and accessing them as and when needed. Now let's try to understand this with the help of an example. Suppose there are two blocks of mass 2 kg and 4 kg, and in between the upper and lower block, coefficient of kinetic friction is 0.2 and coefficient of limiting friction is 0.4, and the lower ground is smooth. We need to find acceleration of 2 kg, acceleration of 4 kg, and friction between the blocks, and a force of 50 Newton acts on the upper block. So the solution involves a pattern. So the pattern is that, because I know this, so the pattern is we assume that blocks move together and find the acceleration. It comes out to be 8.3 meter per second square. Now we calculate the maximum possible acceleration of the lower block, because lower block will be moved by the friction. So the maximum acceleration is maximum friction force by 4, which is mu limiting into normal reaction, which is 20 by 4. So which is 5 times mu L, so which is 2. So the maximum possible acceleration is 2, while if we assume that blocks are moving together, acceleration is 8.3. So since A0 is greater than mx, that means both blocks will move separately. So that is how neural pattern works. So this is the first thing. After this, my solution will start. So while you are studying two block problems, you must have gone through certain processes, certain thinking, certain contemplation, comprehension. And by using all of these, if you are able to come to the correct neural pattern and able to retain that when question is asked, then you'll be able to solve question. Otherwise, you will think, you will analyze, you will criticize, you will do this, you will do that. You'll be trapped in a system, but will be unable to come to the answer. And life is about the answers. Everybody has question, everybody has processing, everybody has thoughts, but very few have access to the answers. And the importance is of the answers, not of the questions, neither of the thoughts, neither of any mediocre thing. Only answers are significant, for which everybody is aspiring to. So your thinking process, if it is not optimized for answers, it can lead you to nowhere. So that explains the significance of neural patterns. Now let's solve this question further. Now it's very easy, because blocks will move separately, the friction will be kinetic. So on the upper block, 50 Newton force will be rightwards, and friction will be leftwards. So we using second Newton's law, we can say that net force is m into a. So acceleration comes out to be 23 meter per second square. While for the lower block, friction will be rightward. So using Newton's second law, we get acceleration as 1 meter per second square, and friction will be kinetic friction, which is 4 Newton. So you see that the entire turning point is in this process, the neural pattern. And in these parts, it's very easy. It took me no time to calculate these steps. That explains why neural patterns are important. Now, the pattern for this particular problem is that if we have two blocks and a force is applied, then first step is calculate common acceleration. Second point is find Amax of the lower block, where Amax is mu limiting m1g by m2. Then three cases are possible. If Amax is greater than A0, then that means both blocks will move together. A0 will be F upon m1 plus m2 and friction will be m2F by m1 plus m2. If Amax is less than A0, that means both blocks will move separately. Acceleration will be F minus mu kinetic m2g by m1g by m2, and friction force will be kinetic. Whereas if Amax is equal to A0, blocks move together, acceleration will be F by m1 plus m2 and friction will be limiting. So this is the neural pattern for this particular problem. So if you master this neural pattern by practicing again and again, then you'll be able to solve this question within a limited time and will be able to crack JEE and NEET with flying colors. So there are only about 1500 neural patterns of this sort, which are the ultimate game changers in JEE and NEET. So I'm soon going to start video lectures based on the neural patterns itself, so that you can come to the final conclusion without being trapped in thinking, contemplating, comprehending, researching, doing R&D, doing this, doing that, but still unable to get the answer. So I'm going to explore an optimal way of getting up to the answer and cracking your exam without being trapped in any mediocre thing and optimizing your success. Thank you and have a nice day.